nice dry white robes and put them into a clay pot. And he said, "Follow me, boys." And they walked up over the hill and up a little bit to the mouth of that cave. As a matter of fact, said the rabbi, I can teach you how to dance between the raindrops. And the witches, that is something we would like very much to do. Then we wouldn't have to stay in our caves when it's raining. And then the rabbi was like, first, you show me some tricks that you know, and then I will show you the tricks that I know. And the witches said, ooh, that's a fair deal. And they started to wave their wands and just mutter little spells, and soon enough there was a table that was laid out, and it was filling up with good things to eat. Breads and roast geese and cheeses, and it was wonderful. And the rabbi said, let's eat. And the witches said, I thought we were going to do tricks for you, and then you would show us your trick. And, he kind of forgot what he was there for. It was time to eat. And he said, okay, fine. I will call out 28 good-looking, handsome young men to come dance with you. And he whistled once, and then he whistled again, and 28 young men in nice, dry, white robes came into the cave. And they ran in and they each picked up a witch and they began dancing with her and whirling her around. And they were having such great fun. And the rabbi himself took the head witch and said, dance with me. And that witch said, nobody has asked me to dance for over 450 years. And so she took his hand and they began to dance, and they whirled around, and the rabbi said, now! They began to dance, and all the young men took their witches with them, and they went out into the rain. And the witches began to, they disappeared. And then the rabbi had the young men go back to town, knock on all the doors. And they did, and they danced, and they ate, and they sang all through the night. And the next month, when it was not raining, and the full moon came out, so did the people. And they danced in the square, and they had such a wonderful time gazing up at the beautiful full moon, which they did every month, as far as I know, from then until now.
With the hoe, suddenly his hoe got kind of stuck in the ground. Thought it was a rock. So he bent down trying to move that rock so it'd be ready for springtime. When he dug in that dirt, he looked down there. Wow, what is that? It's not really a rock. Oh. That looks like a big toe. Oh, that's really neat. I found a big toe. He ran in the house and said, Mom, look what I found a big toe. His mom said, oh, softened up. And soon it was dinner time. 3 bowls were set at the table, biscuits were made, and the soup was ladled out into each of the bowls. And then the mother fished into the pot and she pulled out the toe. The boy said, well, what happened to the toenail? She said, oh, they always fall off when they're cooking for a long time. And she says, I'm going to divide this up so everybody gets a piece of this. And that's exactly what she did. She divided that toe into 3 pieces and gave them each a piece. They added it to their soup and ate it all gone. The boy said, that was the best soup ever. I didn't know toes could taste so good. That was such a lucky find. It was soon time for bed. Everything had been cleaned up, and the mom and dad had a bedroom downstairs, and then there was a little loft area, and that's where the boy slept. So he went upstairs to go to sleep in his little loft area. He was tired. He'd worked hard that day, and everyone was soon asleep. But in the deepest, darkest part of the night, suddenly there was a sound coming from outside. It went, where's my toes? I could hear. And he heard it again. Where's my toad? It's coming from outside, so I'm safe. I'll just lay here and go back to sleep because I didn't really hear that. I think I'm just dreaming. Yeah, I'm just gonna go back to sleep. I'll count fingers. 1 finger, 2 finger, 3 finger. Where's my toe? We suddenly heard the door open upstairs. Went the door, and he heard it again. Where's my toe? That thing is downstairs. What am I gonna do? Maybe Mom and Daddy. It got closer and closer. I could hear it across the floor. The sun was up, morning had come, and his mother was fixing breakfast. She had made some flapjacks, and she called down, Tommy, come on down, and he looked around. The quilt was on the floor. Tommy? And she asked her husband to go outside and see if he could see her because Tommy must have gotten up and already left. But Tommy wasn't anywhere in the room. He was nowhere in the house. And the father couldn't find him. Tommy was never seen again.
What?
Yeah.
It's fine. All joke. Well, I'm going to bring y'all a tale from Deep South. Is that okay? Anybody here y'all know about Deep South? Raise your hand if you know anything about Deep South. I will continue to lie to you then all night long. Well, there was a little place down there. It was a fine little place to live. People grew gardens and cows and sheep and corn and just kind of lived, and that was a good place. And there was a preacher. There was a preacher come by, every week or so. His name was Preacher Fry. Of course, his real name was Drop. Right there on the carpet in the parlor. Well, the old man of the house there and the old lady said, "Ooh, what are we going to do? We're going to hang us for murder. We got to get shut of this guy somehow." And so they left it to the old man, and the old man picked up old Dry Fry and he dragged him over to his neighbor's house, just a little bit down the road a bit, and he leaned him up against the front door. So Dry Fry was just kind of leaning up against the front door. Right now. And so directly somebody come by and opened that door, and old Dry Fry fell right into the living room, just like that. And looking down at him, that old guy said, "Oh," he said, "that's Dry Fry." Everybody knows Dry Fry. "That's old Dry Fry. We got to get rid of this or they're going to hang us for murder. They'll think we killed him." And so he picked up old Dry Fry and dragged him a little bit farther down the road. As a matter of fact, he got down to a neighbor of his. And now this neighbor of his had been missing some corn, gone missing out of his corn house. So he was being vigilant of his corn house. Now he dragged old Dry Fry down there and set him up behind the corn house there and left him there. And that was okay. But just about time, like this, the sun was starting to go down a little bit. And that man peeked out of the house and saw somebody over there by his corn house. And he ran and got his gun. And he went out there and said, "No, you over there by the corn house, you get on up out of here, or I'll shoot you." Of course, Dry Fry didn't say nothing at all. He just stood there, leaning up against the corn house like that. And that old man said, I told you, you get away from here, I'm going to shoot you." And he did. Boom, boom. And he shot an old Dry Fry, he just fell right over, right there on the ground. And the old man went over to see who it was. And when he saw who it was, he said, "Oh, it's old Dry Fry." Everybody knew old Dry Fry. He said, "It's old Dry Fry. And I done killed him. They're going to hang me for murder. I got to get shed of this guy somehow." And so he took him down the road a little further piece down, and he put old Dry Fry, and they put him on a stump with his head in his hands like this. Next morning, there was a group coming down the road because there's going to be a baptizing there in the river. So they're coming down to have a meeting. But before they got there, I have to tell you, there was a little old feisty boy, and he was out there before the people coming down for the baptizing. And he saw old Dry Fry.
And he headed out to his truck, and he got in, and gets the keys going. It was back in those old days.
Howdy, Dry Fry. And that little boy kind of took on him. He was a little upset with him. He said, hey, somebody say good morning to you. You say, howdy back. I'm going to give you another chance. I said, howdy, Dry Fry. And old Dry Fry, he said nothing, just sat right on. And that little old feisty boy said, you don't say howdy back to me. I'm going to come swipe your elbows out before you knock that. And I'm going to send you tumble right down to the ground. And try you again. Howdy, Dry Fry. And Dry Fry just sat there saying nothing. And that little old feisty boy went over and took that elbow right off his knee. And old Dry Fry, he started to tumble. And he fell right down into the river. Swoosh. Sank. Well, all the people come for the baptizing, and they got all set up right there, and they sang hymn, and they were waiting for Dry Fry to come do the preaching before the baptizing. And they waited, and Dry Fry didn't come. And they waited a little longer, and Dry Fry didn't come. And the more they waited, the more he didn't come. Until finally, they just sang the last hymn, they took up the collection, the meeting broke up, and they all left. And as soon as they were all gone, that little old boy, he ran right down to the river with a long pole with a hook on it, and he hooked old Dry Fry up out of the river. Pulled him up and said, oh, this is really bad. They're going to think I drowned old Dry Fry. But he stuffed old Dry Fry into a bag. He had a bag, and he cinched it up tight, and he got it up on his shoulder like this, and he was walking on down the road looking for a place to dump old Dry Fry. Well, coming the other way down the road was a couple of thieves. Now, these thieves had been out robbing in the countryside there, and they had got themselves a couple of hogs. And when they spotted, going down the road like this, they spotted somebody coming. They dropped their bags right there in the road and ran up into the brush to hide. Well, that little old boy, he come along there, he saw these two bags sitting in the road. He wondered what was in them. So he set old Dry Fry down there, went over and untied one, there's a little hog in it. He said, oh, that's a better deal altogether. So he tied up that little hog and threw that over his shoulder, and he went on home with the hog. And when those two thieves discovered that there was nobody else out there, they came back down and they found those two sacks sitting right there in the road where they left them. And they went on home, hung their bags up in the smokehouse. Next morning, the little old lady of the house, she got up, she was going to go out to the smokehouse and get some, cut off some ham for breakfast. She got out there with her butcher knife and she slid open that bag, and there was old Dry Fry in the bag. And she said, ah, it's old Dry Fry. Everybody knew old Dry Fry. Everybody. And so put out in her mind like that she busted out one wall of the smokehouse on her way out, took two posts out of the porch, slammed that screen door so hard it broke off its hinges, as she going into the kitchen yelling and screaming, and those two old guys, they got up. We got to get rid of this guy. And now, they had some wild horses out in the wilderness area over there. So they went out there and rounded up one of them wild horses, brought it back down, put an old no-count piece of saddle on it, and then they hooked old Dry Fry up on top of that horse. And they tied his legs to the belly band on that saddle, and then they tied his hands to the saddle horn right there. And they put his hat on his head, and then they slapped that horse. Woo! And that horse took off and running. Woo! Well, those two thieves, I'll tell you what, they took out their pistols and started shooting in the air. And they started screaming and yelling to all the folks. And get him, get him! They said, he's stealing our horse. He's a horse thief. Shoot him, shoot him! And so that old horse headed right down Main Street. Well, it was the main street of the little town there. And all the people came out to hear what the shooting and the hollering was all about. And they saw old Dry Fry just bouncing on this side, bouncing on this side, going on down the road. And those old guys back there yelling, he's stealing our horse, he's stealing our horse. The people in the town were killing Dry Fry. But that old horse, he got down to the end of the town, jumped the fence, and headed off up north toward Kentucky. And last I heard, he's still out there, riding that wild horse off through the hills. That's the story. Got another one for us, Okay.
Job to do. He was going over to Marilyn's house to lay carpet in Marilyn's living room. And Marilyn was excited to have this new carpet. It was actually going to be laid. And John came in with the carpet, and the old carpet had already been removed. And he brought in that new roll and started rolling it out. Now it was a big room. It was a living room that was connected with a dining room. It was a big room, and he began working his way back in the dining room and working his way out. Soon the job was just about done, and he looked over and thought, that looks so good. But then he looked in this one corner, and he noticed there was a little lump in it. He thought, there's a lump. All of a sudden he felt his arm. I must have dropped my cigarettes. That's just my cigarettes in there. Yeah. And he had a hammer, so bam, bam. And it was nice and flat. There we go, they're never going to know. Years from now, they're going to roll up that carpet to get some new carpet. They're going to see that pack of cigarettes and they're like, oh yeah, that was John Holbrook that laid that carpet. He was a smoker, but good at carpet. That'll be a little funny thing just to leave for him. And so he was getting ready to go, and Marilyn came down the stairs. She had been upstairs, and she says, oh, I'm so glad you're still here. I was just in my son's room, and his little gerbil is missing. It's gotten out of the cage, and I've been looking for it. And little Joshy, he just loves this gerbil so much. If you have just a minute, could you help me find it? And John's like, well, I've got another job to do, but I'll help you look around a little bit for it. So they looked around for it, and they couldn't find it. And he said, ma'am, I'm going to have to go. I've got another job to do, but good luck with the gerbil. And he headed out to his truck. And as he got in, he gets the keys going. It was back in those old days where he had keys that would start a car. He just put his keys in, started the car, and suddenly he looked over on the dashboard. And there was his cigarettes. Uh-oh. What had he pounded down?
Well, no? Okay, good. Halloween's coming up. And so I thought maybe I'd try a Halloween story on. Is that okay? This is the story of little Blackley Locks and the three skeletons. Blackley Locks and the three skeletons. Yeah. See, little Blackley Locks, she was about that big, and she was going out trick-or-treating, and so her mama made her a costume, and that costume was made out of cardboard, and they made a big circle, and they painted a black line right down the middle of it, and then they put two black dots and painted the rest of it red, and she put little antennas on her head, and so she was going as a ladybug. Yeah, cute. Little black light. And so she went off, and she was headed on down the street, and she saw a big old house down there at the end. She thought, ooh, if it's a big house, maybe they're giving out the big candy bars, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know. You scope those out. And you come around the block 3 times to the same house. Right? Change your costume each time, because we got wise to them last year. They were doing that, yeah. Anyway, but that old house, I happen to know, it actually belonged to a family. There were 3 skeletons. There was the papa skeleton, and there was the mama skeleton, and then there was a little baby skeleton. Yeah.
And now, Pop Skeleton, he had a job downtown. He worked in a body shop. I couldn't resist. And Mom Skeleton, yeah, she had a side job. She'd gone into business with her neighbors, and they were making a special treat for Halloween. They were cookies, okay? Little cookies they cut out in a shape like this. Yeah, you know what they are. Ginger Dead Man.
Oh, yeah.
You know the Ginger Dead Man? Yeah. And so she was making a lot of those Ginger Dead Man. And little baby skeleton, dead. Well, Mama Skeleton, of course, her job was to follow around that little baby skeleton because he was always shedding parts, you know. He'd lose a finger here and there, a toe, you know, and she'd be picking up behind him, all, you know, leg bone here. And one time she found an entire torso, and she had to go put him all back together. And sometimes she didn't get it quite right. You know what I mean? When you got all these bones and you're juggling the bones, and sometimes a leg would get sticked onto the shoulder, and sometimes a hand would get sticked onto a foot. And so baby skeleton was sometimes kind of funky to look at. But one time, okay, and it was for this particular evening, it was going to be Halloween. Well, Mom Skeleton had made a really nice dinner. Okay, there was some extra Ginger Dead Man that she put out there, and she made a really nice thick bone broth. And put out the spoons and all of that, and that was fun. And so they all gathered around the table there, and Papa Skeleton said, now imagine this, you have to imagine this with me, okay? He took a big spoonful of bone broth, poured it in, like that, and you could see it dribble down through his ribs, and then out the, you know, on the chair, and then onto the floor. And he said, ew, that bone broth is too
Hot.
That bone broth is too cold. Set out here until it comes up to ambient temperature. That'll be just fine. That'll be just fine. So he said, let's all of us just go out and we'll take a ramble around the cemetery out there. Go visit some friends. And so that's what they did. They went out the back door just as Blacklocks was coming up to the front door. And she knocked on the door like this, and nobody answered. She knocked again like this, nobody answered. She reared back, tried out her kung fu move. And she kicked the door open, slam. And she went right on in. And there was no body there. And first thing she saw was the table all set, right? And there was a Ginger Dead Man on the table, which she'd never had before. And then there was some kind of soup. And so she tried the first one. What was it? Bone broth. Ew, she said, that's too salty. And she tried the next one. It was a smaller bowl. Spoonful, do it with me. Here we go. Spoonful. In. Hey, she said, that one needs seasoning. Then she tried the smallest bowl, right over there. It was just a little bowl, you know. So it had come up to ambient temperature quicker than the bigger bowl. And so she tried that one. Go with me. Here we go. Mmm, that's really good. And she took the whole bowl like that. And then she finished off with one leg of a Ginger Dead Man. Now, what do you start with when you're eating a Ginger Dead Man? No. That's gross and disgusting. Legs first. And she liked those a lot. And then she felt like, well, I'm going to go explore this house. She went directly upstairs. And as she walked into the upstairs room, you know, she saw, well, 3 coffins. The last one. You know what happened, don't you? It was up on a stand about this high, okay? And she climbed inside of it, and it fit just right to ramble through the cemetery. And they'd come back in, and they noticed their bone broth had been messed with. Yeah? And then looked around, couldn't find any other evidence. I said, maybe somebody's upstairs. So they went upstairs, and they looked at the first coffin. There was nobody in it. There was nobody in it. And they looked at the second coffin, and there was nobody in it. Now, Blacklylocks, inside the last coffin, she had heard them come in, because they were like rattling around, you know, and they were rattling around and looking at stuff. Get too much? Okay. And they finally came to the last. Now, she had woke up and heard them coming in, and she started pounding on the lid. And she couldn't get out. It couldn't be on. And the skeleton family were like, whoa, there might be a body in that one. And they watched, and Blacklylocks in there, she started rolling from side to side. She was hitching like this, and the coffin was just starting to move around outside like this, and she started jumping up and down like trying to get the thing open, and it slid off of the stand, right off the bottom of it. And it burst open, just like that. And Blacklylocks looked up from the wreckage of that little coffin, and the skeleton family looked down at what had just come out of the coffin, and baby skeleton just fell to pieces. Little skeletons, I noticed the bone broth residue inside, and she jumped out the window, and she landed in a great big patch of briars, thorns, and thistles.
Oh.
And she said, well, that's not happening. She went back in the front door, climbed up those stairs, right past the skeleton family again, over to the window, and she deployed her cardboard ladybug wings. She deployed that right out the window, shot herself off, and she went sailing off over the horizon. And that's the last that they ever saw of her.
For some reason, I'll keep working on it though. At the cemetery, and James said, yeah, just a little. And Hans said, wow, you really got the willies. That's what he called it when he was really scared. He says, I don't have the willies. James said, no. I'm just a little scared. He says, come on, let's go. And so they ran the rest of the way home. And Hans kept thinking about that. How come he got so scared? I want to get scared. I want to get the willies. That was kind of fun watching him just rattle, shake. And so he said, Jenny, you know, I worry sometimes. And she was like, yeah, I'll be glad to do that. But every time, Hans would just go, didn't scare me. Nope, didn't scare me at all. James kept thinking of ways to scare him. He got spiders and put in his bed. And then he said, but Hans, he just took the spiders out. And so finally he said, you know what, let's do this. Why don't we go to the deepest, darkest time of the night and go to the cemetery? That'll scare you. So they did. And the moon was hardly up there. It was just a sliver of the moon. The wind was blowing. I know, if I go ask the king would be able to grant me the willies, because he can do anything. The king's the king. He went up to the castle and he asked the guard, I would like to see the king. Why do you want to see the king? Because I would like him to grant me the willies. The guard had never heard anybody asking for that at all. And it was Wednesday, and that was when the king would see the people who would come in to ask them questions and visit with him. And so Wednesday afternoon, it was okay for him to come. The guard showed him in, and soon it was his turn to talk to the king. He looked at the king and he bowed deeply like you do to kings. And the king said, what is it you want, son? Well, I would like the willies. I've never had them before. You want the willies, do you? Well, I believe I can grant them to you. Now, over yonder, on the other side of our town, there is a very big hill, and on top of that hill, there is a haunted house. And people go to that haunted house, and they often get the willies, and they often don't come back. So I think that would be a good place for you to go to get the willies. Off with you, boy. Hans was so excited. This is so great! I can go to a haunted house. I am going to get the willies tonight. He headed off to that house, and by the time he was there, rain had started. It was pouring. The sky just opened up. I like that rain we had earlier this week, you know, that wet rain that just poured down out of the sky. He made it to the house. He knocked on the door. Boom, boom, boom. No one answered. The rain, he was just drenched when suddenly the door went and opened up. Well, this is a friendly place. Nice. He walked right on in and the door went plunk and closed. Hello? Anybody here? Hello? But no one answered. He went into a big room and there was one chair in the middle and a great big fireplace. The fireplace was about as long as this banner back here. And right in the center was the hearth. Suddenly, a fire started. Whoa, this is the coolest, neatest place. Fire just starts up. This is so great. He sat down in the chair and said, I'm just going to get myself warmed up. Kind of cold out there. Oh, hello, so whoever started the fire, thank you very much. Suddenly, the clock struck midnight. Bong, bong, bong. That's 3. We'll go for 9 more and then it's done. And Hans had gotten sleepy and he had started to doze off, but when that chimes went off, he woke right back up. Suddenly the fire went out. Huh, that's kind of strange. I'm still ready to sleep and I want more. And before he could even finish that thought, something came out of the fireplace and landed right in front of his chair. Yes, just like that. It was a great big leg, just what you would think. A great big leg landed in front of him. The leg was about this tall. You looked at that leg and thought, that is something. I see a leg tonight. That's really great. Well, it's me and the leg. I'm just going to sit here in this chair and hopefully the fire. Suddenly the clock struck again. Boom! 1 o'clock in the morning. Woke him up. I wonder what's going on. Down the fireplace, there comes another leg. Oh, there's another leg. Well, that's nice. Now there's 2. It's nice when things come in pairs, don't you think? This is a cool house. Now the king said I was going to get the willies, but I'm just so excited about being here. I'm just being pretty entertained. No willies for me. This is a great house. Oh, but I am tired. Hold the blanket back up. Oh, just get a little shut-eye here. And the clock struck 2. Boom, boom. Wow, I am not getting very much sleep around here, though. More body parts came out of the fireplace, just as you would expect, since there's already 2 legs. That's, of course, how things are going to go in the story. And there was a body, and there was 2 arms. Now there was 2 legs. Hans had to get up out of his chair and look at all those body parts. They were huge. The leg was this long. The arms were about this long. And they had like huge fingers on it. Wow, those are massive hands. Think what you could do with hands that big. Never seen hands like that before. This is really cool to see all these body parts. Wow. Suddenly, out rolled a head. That's right. The head had a great big beard on it. The eyes were closed. Hans said, well, I know what my next task is. I'm going to play Put the Body Parts Together. I've never played this before. This is going to be great. So he took the body and he took one of the legs and stuck it on. It's huge.
Yeah, I know. And I'm gonna kill you. Because that's what I do.
Hans says, no, you don't want to kill me. Hey, you know what we could do? We could do something else. We could like play some cards or something.
You know what I want you to do before I kill you? I'm going to go out and you're going to come with me and dig up some treasure. Because there's treasure out here, but I haven't been able to be myself. I've been kind of apart from things. So I decided, now that I'm all back together, we can get the treasure together and you can dig.
Hans said, well, okay, but I don't really want to dig.
Do it.
So out they went. The giant wasn't much bigger than him, grabbed a shovel, and he began to dig. And after he dug a few bits, he said, Giant, you're so much bigger than me. I'm sure you could do this faster. Giant said,
no, you do it.
So he dug and he dug until at last he dug up that treasure box. And Hans opened it up and said, whoa, that's a lot of gold in there. What are you going to do with it? And the giant said,
I'm going to keep it. First, I'm going to get you. Hans said, no, let's go back to the house. They went back inside with that treasure chest. And the giant said, now I'm going to get you. Hans said, no, you don't need to get me because I am such a nice guy. I can tell jokes and I've got a family back home. You don't really want to kill me. In fact, let's have a dance right now. Come on, let's do it. And he began to whistle, and the giant began to sing, and the giant danced and danced. He hadn't danced for a while, and he wasn't as good as he used to be. And he dripped on his own feet in gold, but he didn't have the willies. The next morning, after he had slept in, because he didn't get up sleep that much that night, he took off. Now the sun was shining. He took that treasure chest of gold and thought, well, better tell the king about this because he's the one that sent me to that house. Went up and asked for the king. The guard said, it is not Wednesday. You may not see the king. I do have something the king would like to see. Look, you may see the king. He was showing him to the throne room and he said, Your Highness. The king looked at him. You're back. I can't believe you survived the night. Yeah, it was really interesting, Your Highness. There was this giant that came down in pieces. It was just an exciting night. I really enjoyed myself. Thank you so much for that opportunity to go to that haunted house. And I ended up getting this treasure chest of gold. I thought maybe we could share it. The king looked at him and said, that's a lot of gold. And yes, you could leave some with me and then take it. And now, whatever happened to that giant that's in that castle? Oh, that giant. You know, he came out in pieces and I just put him back up in pieces. And the thing I'm really sad about is that I didn't get the willies. The king said, but you have gold. You have gold. And you're quite a fine-looking young man. Come back in 2 years and I'll have something else for you. So Hans took most of the gold home. He came back in 2 years and said, Your Highness, I'm back. And when he came back, he'd grown into a full-grown man. And the king said, you are such an ingenious young man. And you put a rest to our kingdom with that haunted house no longer haunted. I have something very special for you. Lydia! And Lydia walked in. Hans looked at her and said, oh my, you're beautiful. Yes, but I'm more than just beauty. So they got to know each other and they did love each other and soon they were married. A year after they were married, she gave birth to not one, but 3 baby boys all at once. And Hans looked at those little babies. He was so excited. Oh, we have 3 boys. I know just what to name them. I'll name them Willie, Willie, and Willie. For now, I've got the Willies!
But that's the mistake. Oh, this is the
Thank you.